or the feed or whatever it's called. But to answer them, you have to do it through the stories, and then when you click on it, they'll populate, and I can click on each question, and it'll put it on a story to respond to. But it's not coming up, like it's just like a little thinking circle. So I'll try to go through and find them that way and answer and put the question like that, but that's going to be kind of annoying. So I'll do my best. I do not run with Pastory at all. When I was going through it, I did try some, and they did not help me. The only thing that helped was Uresta, which is out of Canada. I've talked about them many times before. They're trying hard to get their FDA approval to get into the States and be over the counter, because in Canada they are an over the counter Pastory, and it's for bladder leakage. So my prolapse did not affect my running. I didn't have symptoms of heaviness once I started focusing on that, but it was the leakage, which leakage was still associated with my bladder prolapse. And so Uresta can be very minor support for bladder prolapse. It was mostly for my stress incontinence. So that is what I use. That I'm convinced helped me get over the hump to add strengthening in and change my running form. Every now and then around my cycle, I might use it because sometimes I feel that change from. Okay, I'm going to group a couple together that were associated with prolapse. So it was, can you improve grade 2, stage 2 with conservative treatment? How well does reversal of prolapse positioning happen with PT? So you can affect prolapse positively with conservative treatment, PT, for stages 1 through 3. So 4 is when it is out of the vaginal canal and we need to have surgery. So even at a 3, you can affect your prolapse. Now, I want to remind you, and if you haven't heard it before, affecting our prolapse and managing it conservatively means we are asymptomatic, or we have control over our symptoms. You may still see on visual exam prolapse. Some people will see a shift in the organ, and there are some changes in organ position. Other people may not. So I have stage 2 bladder and uterine prolapse. I have. It does not affect me. Living with prolapse and managing it means following your symptoms of heaviness, leakage, pain, whatever that represents for you, to live and know if you need to modify certain movements because of that. Because people can have prolapse and have no symptoms of it and can, on a physical exam, present as a 1 or a 2, and they might not have any symptoms. Versus some people only have a 2 or a 1, and they might feel significant symptoms. So the physical presence of it doesn't determine how you move and how you live. It's really about managing your symptoms and understanding pressure control in your body. So I would focus on thoracic mobility and back body expansion. So I always like to tell people, remember we get pregnant and all of a sudden we just move as a unit. And so after pregnancy, you really need to be purposeful about introducing thoracic rotation again. Additionally, if we have poor posture, breastfeeding posture, those sorts of things, we need to be even more mindful of continuing to focus on that sort of mobility. Now, also, the diaphragm expands in 360 degrees, and if we have a high hinge point where we're creating a lot of tension here, and we're not going to be expanding the diaphragm into the backside of the body, which means pressure is coming forward, which means we don't have good intra-abdominal pressure control, which means we're not using our core canister as well, and we're just putting pressure at the belly and the pelvic floor. And if you already have a weakness because you're currently early postpartum, that can affect that. It's finally working, and now I have to leave and go get my kids. I'm sure I can get some of these tomorrow too. Increased BMI is associated with increased prolapse and prolapse symptoms. Do I think it's causation purely? No, because we know that prolapse can mostly start from vaginal deliveries in the cases of episiotomies and assisted delivery, levator ani avulsions and tears, deep tears, other sorts of things, loss of structural support. However, people who don't have children can also have prolapse and do, so it's not 100% vaginal birth. In general, just think more body weight, more forces, more pressure on that area. I can't remember anymore because I don't do joints. What is it like if you were to lose like 1 pound of body weight, like it's like 5 pounds of forces on a joint? And so I kind of like think of that as well as for overall health on our pelvic floor. It was actually my left side. I had the camera facing me when I did that, when I was showing that running stretch this morning. So then it like reverses it and it looks like my right side. So I was doing my left hamstring activation as well as opening through the left back, hip, glute, and pelvic floor with a little bit of that hinging and rotation. Okay, I have an old post on this that I'll share after this, but essentially opening the back of the pelvic floor with a lot of hinging type movements. You can also consider using a pelvic wand to get to those deeper posterior structures with movement. As far as how to improve that with sitting, improve sitting posture. So that can mean not slouching, and you can put a towel rolled up or a lumbar roll at the low of your back. So you just come into a slight anterior tilt so that you're not sitting directly on the tailbone, and then you can move the fleshy parts of your bottom out of the way to make sure you're on the sits bones. And you could consider purchasing like a donut cushion that will allow the tailbone to float so that you're not putting increased pressure on that area if you do sit for a long period of time. And I think I have some donut cushions linked in my Amazon store if you're looking for something like that. Your pelvic floor should still move with the rhythm of your breath, just at a lesser. Your pelvic floor should still move with the rhythm of your breath, just at a lesser degree. So in the sense of big, large inhales and big, large exhales, when the diaphragm lengthens, the pelvic floor lengthens, and when we exhale, it lifts, and the diaphragm lifts as well. The same thing happens, it's just on a smaller scale. And so it's learning how to breathe into the diaphragm while we hold core tension, learning how to release that, how to modulate that depending on the task that you're doing, and learning that in your body. So if you want to learn that, join the workshop that's happening Wednesday the 15th, so next week. This is the link. We're covering all of that.